Hello, friends, and welcome to Talking with Famous People. I come to you today with some dark news of sorts. My father is dead. He died yesterday of a self inflicted gunshot wound to the head. And today we begin the first day of the rest of our lives, you know? It was not expected, but not totally unexpected either. He was always going to go out that way. Yeah, I know. Everybody's sorry for my loss. It's like, thank you for your service, you know? it's, it was, he didn't want to outlive my mom, you know? He wasn't going to outlive my mom for very long. But last week we went to the general practitioner for his depression as we were waiting for a psychiatrist appointment. And I told the lady what to prescribe him, but she didn't want to listen to me. She prescribed him Remeron. 3 days after he started taking it, he shot himself in the head. It does say on the warning label that Remeron links causally to suicidal thoughts, suicide, and stuff like that, you know. He was 84. Look, I mean, this is the thing. It's not heartbreaking. It was shocking. And it was it was obviously a very disruptive day yesterday. It was just after 8 in the morning. I was sitting out here. Rachel was asleep in bed. And we heard this loud bang. But even when we came outside, a peacock had just landed on the thing. And I thought, well, maybe the peacock made that noise. We weren't sure what made the noise. Then I saw his legs sticking out from behind the wall over there on the back in the backyard here. And I ran over there, and I assumed he had fallen down, hit his head on the wall because his head was against the concrete part of the wall there. A lot of blood coming out, and we got on 911 right away, and they told me to do chest compressions on him, and I did that till the cops got there. Then, when the cops and everybody got there, they pulled us out of there right quick because what I hadn't seen, Rachel hadn't seen, and we were operating under the assumption it was a fall, although we didn't have any explanation for the loud noise, was he had a handgun that I didn't even know about. I mean, I knew we had a .22 bolt-action rifle in the house, but I didn't know he had a handgun. And he had just had enough. That's what it boils down to. He was done. Well, he wasn't terminally ill, but I mean, why did he kill himself? He was depressed, and if you wanted to blame something, you could blame the doctor and the choice of prescription drug and the ignoring of me. But I recognize the fact that she might have followed my advice and this might have still happened. My dad had made it clear for a long time he didn't want to he wanted to control how he went out, you know. It's okay, but I think that's 3,000. And it's when he got, you could say COVID killed him too. You know, he got COVID a couple of weeks ago, and it really knocked him on his ass. And even when he got over it, it was, he had been taken behind the woodshed. His vision was not as good as it had been. His balance wasn't as good. He couldn't do things by himself so much anymore. Remeron, it's called. Remeron. And he didn't really like it. I was scheduled yesterday to follow up with him on whether he wants to continue making the appointment with Rachel's psychiatrist that I'd recommended, Rachel had recommended, and we'd set it up, but you know, he decided to expedite matters, I guess. Anyway, the cops came and they saw the handgun that we hadn't seen, and so then we got pulled out of the area, and it was taped off like a crime scene, and we got GSR tested and stuff. At first, I think they were rather suspicious of us having something to do with it, but then, you know, after they swept the house and gathered all the evidence and stuff, everybody's attitude started to change, and the thing is, it's okay. It's okay, you know. I was able to be here with him for the last 3 years. And prior to that, it had been 25 years since I had spent any extensive time with my parents beyond occasional visits and stuff like that, you know. Yeah. I watched, or as the last life drained out of him. He took his last breath, and his legs and arms like unfolded, and it was obvious to me at that point he was dead. I kept doing the chest compressions, like I said on the person on 911 said, and anyway, it was pretty dramatic. But you know, he had everything prepped for this eventuality. Although he mostly covered the preparations with my daughter more than with me. He respects my daughter more than he respected me. You know, she's coming over today, and we're going to. It's okay. Betting tips 3,000. Don't worry about it. She's going to call the lawyer and set in motion the estate shit that needs to be set in motion. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen from this point forward. Hi, Delilah.
Hey, do you guys want a coffee or anything from Starbucks?
No, thanks. I made coffee. I got coffee here.
Okay, cool.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
She's on her way over here right now to deal with various things. The coroner currently has my dad's body, but they don't expect to have it for very long. And I need to call a mortuary today and give them the case number of the coroner so that they'll deal with the coroner and take over the body when it's time for the body to be taken away. My mom's in hospice care, so that means presumably she's down to her last 120 days. I need to go over there at some point today and tell her, even though she won't understand. She's okay too. Yesterday she came over and we just all spent the day together. And it was very satisfying just to have the family here, just the three of us. But it made me feel safe and okay. Talked to my aunt, Evelyn. Well, don't do it, Betting Tips 3000. If you're in your mid-80s and you've lost your physical abilities and your wife's on her deathbed and everything that's been valuable and important for you as a day-to-day thing has been lost or substantially reduced, then control the way you want to go out then. But if you're not in your 80s, at least, then please don't ever do that. It's okay. It's alright, Betting Tips 3000. It's like, this is not, but see, this is the thing. This is not meaningfully a suicide, okay? Yeah, my dad shot himself in the head to end his life, but this was the final step of his plan he's always had. He was never going to go to the hospital and be hooked up to machines. He made that very clear. And it's like he had to execute his plan while he still could. So I get it. It's sad, but it's not tragic. It's not heartbreaking. No, he didn't leave a note. Or if he did, the cops took it. The cops might have taken it as evidence, Rachel was asleep. I was out here. We heard the bang. I saw my dad's legs. We went out there and dealt with it. Next thing we knew, the cops were here. It was hours later before we were allowed back in the house. So anything that they might have found inside that was evidence of a suicide or contraindicative with us, they would have taken with them, I guess. Presumably someday they'll give us that stuff back when they make a decision. I don't know. We looked around for a no, but we couldn't find anything. We didn't ask them before they left. This is a whip itch dispenser. Thanks, Lou. One of the things I thought actually yesterday was probably pretty soon Rachel and I will go visit you. In the next couple of months. So the thing is, I don't know exactly what my dad's instructions indicate, because like I said, my dad was had more put my daughter in charge of that than me. Because he understood my daughter better, ESTP, ESTJ understand themselves better than ENTP, ESTJ do. I was his benefactor. I was his beneficiary. He was my benefactor, and it was extremely difficult for me to benefit him. I did everything I could to be as useful as I could during the last few years of his life, but well, I mean, I didn't do everything I could, but I did things, and often they backfired. It made it tricky to do things, to do everything I could, you know? We'll stay in a hotel, don't worry about it, Lou. We'll just come up and visit and stay in a hotel. Thanks, Death by Monkeys 419. I almost didn't monetize this live stream, and then I said, no, my dad would have wanted me to monetize this. For sure. My dad was one of those guys that didn't really believe in the usefulness of things that didn't make money. Well, this isn't necessarily going to be a particularly long stream because my daughter's on her way over and she's going to start a bunch of things, and at some point, we'll I lost my train of thought. Oh, at some point she'll probably delegate some tasks to me and such. I just wanted to inform everybody mostly, and it's okay. I'm not heartbroken. I'm sad, but not heartbroken. I mean, when I came and moved here 3 years ago, it began a vigil where I began waiting for my parents to die. We don't typically put it like that for a variety of reasons, but that's what it was, And death is a part of every single person's life. My daughter and I will be planning the funeral. Well, my dad already planned it, basically. He's got plots in Missouri for me and my mom that are at my mom's parents' graveyard. And I suspect what we'll do is get my dad cremated and then wait for my mom to pass. And thank you, Zaylen Black. Very kind of you. Very, very kind of you. Then we'll bury them together. I will give the eulogy. And there will not be bagpipes. But probably my dad's sister will be there, me, Delilah, and Rachel, and that's probably it. My parents were both atheists. My dad's sister is very Christian. Well, yeah, things are gonna change a lot. No, he didn't dislike bagpipes, but my dad's family is from Pennsylvania. My mom's family originally was from Missouri, but most of them made their way out to the West Coast. But my mom's an only child, and my dad had one sister, my Aunt Evelyn, who's very Christian and probably an ENFJ, possibly an INFJ, definitely an NFJ, my dad's sister. Thing is, this experience has taught me a lot about generational stuff. How important it is to know what you want, too. Because it's like, when we went to that urgent care the other day, and there was this totally incompetent doctor who insisted I take my dad to the hospital right now, and I'm trying to get her to justify her claims, trying to get answers that are determinate on the question. My dad's the only one with the determinate answer. I'm not going to the hospital right now because I don't want to. I'll go in the morning. I don't want that. He did end up going to the doctor the next day. It didn't do a damn bit of good. He got diagnosed officially what we already suspected was the case, that he had 2 broken ribs. And he got prescribed pain pills. Then we went back for the depression visit with his general practitioner, waiting for a psychiatrist to talk to us. She ignored me, you know? She ignored everything I said. I didn't argue with her either. I didn't yell. I just accepted it. She said that I don't practice medicine like that when I suggested he be prescribed Klonopin because he was complaining about anxiety preventing him from sleeping. Her justification was that Klonopin might make him more likely to fall over. And old people are likely to fall over already. Accidental falls, basically. Which is why I made a video the other day that said, yeah, but doctors need to ask what's most important to you, what matters most to you, before they make these kind of decisions. Because if the doctor had asked these sort of questions or had listened to me at all, I would have told her the reason he fell over and broke 2 ribs was not because he's unstable, but because he probably passed out due to high fever when he had COVID, and that's when he broke those 2 ribs. It's not like he normally falls or he's fall prone or something. Most importantly, he's complaining to you about not being able to sleep due to anxiety and anxiety-related depression. Give him clonazepam. Like last night, I took half of a Klonopin from Rachel, and yeah, he got all the shots and the booster shots. He got all the shots. Then he ended up getting COVID, got over it, got it again. The second time he got it really bad. And it really kicked his ass. But he was over it by the time he got this depression related stuff, but he was still incurring symptoms from long COVID, quote unquote, which is to say, after he was over it, he still didn't have very much energy. His vision was still blurred. He was still getting over it. Well, yeah, Jay Undo, he's doing okay now. He's dead. We don't need to worry about it anymore. He shot himself in the head. So, the thing is, I told that doctor give him Klonopin so he can sleep well, relax well. At least if you have Clonazepam or Klonopin, whatever you want to call it, it'll knock you the fuck out. And then when you wake up, you might be a little bit groggy. You might even be a little bit depressed because of the aftermath of it. But if you take another one, it'll make you feel better and it'll knock you the fuck out again, you know? It's a really powerful benzo. But she was determined not to give him any benzos. And was especially offended by me even suggesting that maybe, because, like, what happened is, I asked her to tell me which class of drugs the drug she had prescribed him was, Remeron, and I didn't really realize out of the appointment that she didn't know what class of drugs it was. That's why she didn't answer the question. Yeah, I did sound a bit hopeful, but that drug, he didn't like it very much. I mean, we had a conversation. The last things I said to him before he went to bed on Sunday night were, okay, so don't forget we got this family meeting planned tomorrow at 5 p.m. And he said, so we'll order pizza or something? I'm like, yeah, we'll go get a pizza and pick it up, and Delilah will come over, and we'll have our family meeting tomorrow at 5. And then he's like, all right then, all right. It was 10 p.m. I'd come in to put Band-Aids on the part where when he'd passed out and fallen down and broken his ribs, he'd also scraped up his elbow and his arm right here. And some spots where he'd scraped, he couldn't really see it himself, like by turning his arm like this, and couldn't really get it with the Band-Aid. So I came in to Band-Aid those spots. He cleaned up all the kind of like pussy stuff off of this one scab, and I put Band-Aid over that one, and then I put a Band-Aid over the one that was right on his elbow. And then I said, all right, Dad, good night, I love you. And that was the last thing I said to him, you know? And then the next morning, I was out here. I got up around 7, I don't know. I was planning on going and sitting out on the patio and cutting my hair and my beard. It's funny, I started thinking about this as a playoff beard. Saying to myself, maybe I should just let it grow until my mom dies. Because she's in hospice at the end of his life. Somebody called me, but only rang for a couple of rings. I don't recognize the number, so whatever. It's probably just a spammer. Yeah, I know, Jay Hundo, you're right. He went out. He was always. What was always most important to my dad was that his wishes be respected and that he be in control of everything. You know. Yeah, I was worried about him. We talked on Sunday about, I haven't canceled that appointment with the psychiatrist yet. Right, and then I don't take his microwave dinners. Some, Yeah. That's why he went outside, the side of the house where it wouldn't make a mess. Thanks, Self-Help Lunch. Are you channeling the dad? I appreciate that. Thanks, Peacock and Ladybug. My dad was an atheist, but I'm not. So, anyway, now my daughter and I have to manage the estate until my mom passes. Make sure she's cared for until she passes. And the house will probably end up being sold. It'll end up either in my name or my daughter's name, I'm not sure. But ultimately, the estate will end up split between me and my daughter. We'll almost certainly sell this house to pay estate taxes. Maybe liquidate the portfolio and render everything liquid and then split it in half after we paid all the taxes, I'm not exactly sure. Delilah and I still need to talk about that. Yesterday was a hard day. Today's not so overwhelming. I got a really good night's sleep last night. I slept a solid 6 hours without getting up. That never happens these days. When you're old and your prostrate's not exactly what it used to be, 4 hours is an impressive stretch of time. Last night I crashed out for 6 straight hours. I was out. Then I got up. It's not generous of me. It's my parents always treated my daughter like their second child. And that includes in the estate. So it's not like I was an absent parent or anything. I was very present, and I was obviously a much better parent than her biological mother, and a good father, and my daughter really loves me a lot, and I love her a lot, and that's fine. I wouldn't have it any other way, really. I'm happy they set it up like that. And mostly they put it in Delilah's hands in terms of authority over the matter because my dad never really trusted me. He saw me as a fuck up and a consequence of his being not tough enough as a parent, which is not the case, but remember he seemed to feel relieved when I told him, like, I'm on Adderall for ADHD, that there was some medical reason for me being a fuck up. The thing is, I'm not really a fuck up per se. But I don't blame my dad for seeing myself as one. When I was at my most successful, I think my dad liked that. He and my mom were already retired, and they'd travel to some of my national debate tournaments that I'd go to, and like mostly vacation, but watch a couple of the rounds of my kids. Um, Maybe watch awards when we were winning a lot. When we went to Dallas, they were there because Delilah was on my squad. But when we went to Salt Lake City, they were there, even though Delilah wasn't on my squad. She was a judge for me at that point. Yeah, it's fine. It's like I'm not bothered by it. Delilah and I'll make decisions mutually. It's it's not like my dad can change the relationship between me and Delilah from beyond the grave. No matter what he put in legal documents, we'll make mutual decisions. Do most ENTPs see themselves as fuck ups in your experience? I think ENTPs see themselves as what they are. Maybe the most negative form of that, but it depends. If you're a fuck up, you'll see yourself as a fuck up. When I was at my most successful, I saw myself as a drunk because I was primarily what I was. In other words, even while I was being successful at my job and everything, it was really just distracting myself with work between times when I could drink and making sure not to endanger my ability to drink by fucking up too much. I was more well behaved, you know? Most people think the cure to being a fuck up is to fuck down, but really, it's just to non fuck up. It's a good point. Just regular up. I also told Rachel yesterday that I don't put myself down so much. I mean, right now I have pretty high self esteem. I'm not. I don't hate myself like I used to, and I don't think I'm a bad person like I used to. I don't wish I were dead or anything like that like I used to when I was a drunk. Alcohol was my when I was most in my cups was also when I was working like 60 hours a week, you know? So I had plenty of external validation because my students were all winning and stuff. But I hated myself because the rest of the time when I wasn't at work, I was just getting drunk. Maybe fighting with my wife and then passing out, you know? It wasn't a healthy marriage dynamic. The reason we were able to stay together for a long time is because I was a drunk, and she always had that card to play in arguments. Once I quit drinking, she ended up leaving me, even though she was the one who insisted I quit drinking or she was going to leave. Once I did quit drinking, then she could no longer play certain cards against me, which shut me down successfully. And it was time for her to make adjustments. I explained that to her, and she couldn't really push back about it at all. Listen, Candace, over the course of our relationship, I've done this at your ultimatum, I've done this at your ultimatum, and now I've quit drinking at your ultimatum. And now it's time for you to obey some ultimatums. She couldn't do it. She's unipolar. She can't change. She can't evolve intuitively in the way that I was demanding. So we split up, you know. Hi, Delilah.
How's your son?
She's okay. She's in bed. She's sleeping still. Okay.
I'm gonna be in there.
All right. Make some calls and stuff if you need to.
Yeah.
And then come talk to me as you need to.
Alright, sounds good.
Well, I mean, the thing is, turnabout's fair play. If I'm the problem, and she's telling me I'm the problem for these legitimate reasons, I don't have any pushback for that. They're legitimate reasons. All I have is shut my mouth and grin and bear it, you know? But once I quit drinking, she didn't have any good legitimate reasons anymore. She was still behaving as though I were, like when I was a drunk, she'd shut down whatever kind of expressiveness I'd want to express myself with on Facebook, whether it was being mad at the cops, because this was before all the rest of the world realized the cops were murdering people left and right. She'd tell me to take it down. It was too whatever, and I didn't have any faith in my own judgment or the value of my own expressiveness because I was probably drunk when I put it up, you know? Well, then after I quit drinking, she still wanted to police my Facebook posts, and I remember when I was in China, we got in this big argument over the phone about it. You know, like, Candace, this is important stuff that I'm talking about. I'm not worried about maintaining this presentation of being this perfect Facebook family that you're so consumed with. Then when I got back from China, it was a slow divorce or slow separation. We spent a few months in therapy. We had a last family vacation together. It was really tragic because we know, no, she left me, Jay Hundo. She left me. I suspect she regrets it, or maybe she doesn't. And I polar, maybe she doesn't even recognize the big picture things, but I saw her yesterday. She drove Delilah. She's ESFJ. Candace is ESFJ. She dropped Delilah over. She came and saw us, offered to do anything she could to help. And, you know, she was a fixture in this family for a long time. So, my dad felt very betrayed by Candace. My dad liked Candace. He was expecting Candace to be there, to be the responsible one to handle this period of their lives with me. But Candace was right, you know. We did not belong together. We had fundamentally different values for things. She was what you call an Enneagram social variant. She viewed us as a couple as a thing that needs to fit into larger group stuff. And why did we end up together? Well, basically, Delilah's biological mother split and disappeared more or less for several years or more after she cheated on me and we split up. Candace was my assistant at work, and there were occasional days when I'd bring Delilah with me to work, and Delilah and Candace took to each other like, yeah. And I knew I was looking for a mother for my daughter who I could rely on to be a good mother. And that's basically why Candace and I got married. And I don't regret that decision at all. Candace was a good mother. And Delilah's still living, right now, Delilah's living at Candace's parents' house, where Candace is still living too, even though Candace makes good money and everything. They have a big family. Louie, Katie, Candace are the three kids. Johnny and Diana are the parents. And Katie's got a husband and at least one, I think maybe two kids. Little kids around there. So it's a big family house, you know. This guy is always emailing me stuff. Texting me stuff. So, anyway, it's like today's the first day of the rest of our lives, and it's the first day after the vigil. It's odd because Rachel and I have basically been in a holding pattern for 3 years, dealing with this end of life stuff. Although when we first started 3 years ago, it didn't feel exactly like we were anywhere close to the end of life, especially with my dad. We've always been assuming my mom would go first. But I've ideated in my head plenty of times about what happens if my dad goes first, and my dad's prepped for either contingency. Delilah's going and executing his plan right now, whatever it might be. And when she's done making some calls and stuff, I'm sure she'll come out here and inform me of where we are, and I'll call a mortuary, give them the case number from the coroner's office so they can engage with the coroner like that. I suspect we'll get my dad cremated and then wait until my mom passes and then take them both back to Missouri and have one burial ceremony. And the family plots, which my dad has been sending the cemetery $500 a year for maintenance of my mom's parents' graves and her parents' graves, and the plots for my mom and my dad that are waiting for them there. What do I believe spiritually? That life's a story. It's a good story. It's structured to be a great story. It's got a built-in ticking clock. Nobody lives through life, ultimately. Everybody dies at the end of it. And it doesn't go any better than it went for my dad. That's the best case scenario. He had 80 good years. The last few years have been hard on him. You know, when you value the T's and the N's as absolute values like an ESTJ does, and your intuition is telling you on the 7th slot this reality that you can't really gather or come to terms with because it's your blind spot. He's got this conscious frame of problems to be solved, goals to be met, and him coming up with ideas of how to do that. But there's no solution here. The best he could do is direct his TE and NE towards trying to make my mom more comfortable, or making sure things were set up for the end. And it's as though the problems and his capacity to engage them meaningfully got smaller and smaller and smaller as the time went on. He wasn't very emotionally available. Rachel and I tried to be better company for him and so forth as best we could. You know, the night before, we made dinner for the three of us. We all ate together, watched some TV together. But ultimately, those kind of F things were always instrumental values for my dad. He's old school, right? He was never very into emotions at all, or crying or things like that. And yet on some level, he was always the most reasonable person in the family. My mom always had a bit of a justice streak. She wanted to get those people if we were in the right and they were in the wrong. And my dad was more of a compromiser, you know. Well, let's figure out a way to not make this thing blow up into a battle. I was yelling at the doctor, the first urgent care, for doing such an incredibly shitty job. He was just like, son, that's enough. That's enough. Let's go. He didn't like it when shit went down like that. He saw the pointlessness of it, right? Well, now, Eric, you're yelling at them. There's no way they're going to. This is going to resolve better because of that. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily true, Dad, but I get it. It probably is. So, the last doctor we saw, I didn't yell at her. I didn't push super hard on her to do what I thought was best. I let her prescribe Remeron, even though I asked her, well, what class of drugs is that? It's not a benzo, it's not an SSRI, what is it? She didn't even tell me an answer. She said, well, it works on serotonin somehow. And I told my dad at the time, I said, I don't think this is going to work, Dad. This is not the right class of drugs. But he said, well, let's give it a shot. All the cops and the coroner were very interested in the Remeron. They took it with them as medical evidence. So basically, I'm just waiting to see what Delilah has to say. Let Delilah kind of take charge of the next stretch of things until I figure out more clearly what it is I need to do, or she tells me. And went down to the Whippet store this morning to get Whippets.
Hey.
Hi, Rachel. I'm live streaming.
Oh, you're live streaming.
Yeah. I'm glad to do so. It's like I got up this morning and realized I want to tell this story. I'm ready to tell this story. It's called Remeron. Maybe that's the brand name. I don't know what the actual drug is called. But when you look at the warning labels on it, the first thing is this whole block of shit about how it may cause suicidal thoughts, increase the risk of suicide, etc. But the doctor who prescribed it never thought to ask, what's most important to you guys? What matters to you? Because I tried to explain to her, like, look, he's not... Yes, he fell and broke these ribs, but it's not because he's generally unstable. It was because he had a very high fever, had COVID, and I think he passed out when he was trying to go pee, and he fell and broke his ribs. So I get that she has reason to be concerned about him falling, and maybe it is the case that benzos linked to increased risk of falling, but she didn't bother to identify what mattered to us. My efforts were immediately met with defensiveness, and I decided on that occasion, I'd gone in with the right expectations. This doctor's not going to know what she's doing, and so I just let the process play out. It's like Rachel said when we were at that doctor's, she was listening every time they opened the door to see if she could hear me yelling at the doctor from through the door. But in that instance, it didn't work that way. I didn't yell at her. I did tell my dad, this isn't going to work. This isn't the right class of drugs. But I guess I didn't take the suicide warnings label stuff especially seriously. But at the same time, I recognize the reality that in another universe, the doctor could have listened to me, given him the drug I suggested, and he still could have done this. And then I wouldn't want somebody saying that it was because of my interfering with the doctor and suggesting a different drug that caused this. So I don't know how much I really want to blame the Remeron or the doctor. It's a tricky question. Well, benzos may increase suicide risk. I don't know. But I do know this, Morridge. I took half a Klonopin last night, and I had the best night's sleep I've had in a long time. And I got a solid 9 hours. 6, got up to pee, another 3. I can't believe I slept for 6 straight hours. I haven't done that in years, I don't think. And I just wonder if maybe a really good night's sleep might have produced different results, you know, because he wasn't sleeping well. But, you know, it's like, at most we would have delayed the inevitable for a couple more months. I tried to encourage him to do mushrooms, you know, but I showed him a documentary. He said, well, who can I talk to about this? I said, well, me. But he wanted to talk to some kind of professional. So we made an appointment with Dr. Ingram, which we'll cancel now. And you know, the best case scenario, this was delayed for a couple of months or a few months. I don't think he was going to outlive my mom by much, no matter what happened. Especially, he had lost his hearing. He could, you know, we got his hearing aids fixed just a few days before on Saturday. Went to the Costco, got his hearing aids fixed, but his vision was still messed up. He had gotten eye surgery not that long before that, and it didn't really work for him. And he had some double vision issues. Well, she said, that's not how I practice medicine. Okay, well, bitch, you don't get to practice medicine. You get to engage with people who need help. And if you're not paying attention to those people enough, then you're not really doing your job. If you're a doctor and you're not asking, if you're a doctor and you're pointing out, here are some possible harms to actions A, B, C, you need to ask, what's most important to you? What matters most? What do you think is the most significant problem here? If she had asked that and cared, we would have told her, it's not risk of fall that we're maximally concerned about. My dad's experiencing extreme anxiety and depression, and he needs something that's going to make him feel better right away. You know, she called Klonopin a fast-acting benzo, and I corrected her. I said, that is not a fast-acting benzo, and that it's got a 72-hour half-life. But she was right in the sense that it provides immediate relief. It's not like something like an SSRI that you're supposed to let build up in your bloodstream for a couple of weeks. She didn't get that he needed immediate relief. He didn't need to try a sequence of possibly effective antidepressants and, you know, but even my questioning what class of drug it was and why she was giving it to him and stuff, it produced defensiveness that manifests as, well, I'll just print you out the drug information. But then the information she printed out was super shitty. As soon as we got home, my dad printed out much better information on the drug, much more complete information on the drug. So in theory, I suppose, I probably could make a case to sue the Rimmer on people, but I don't. That would be me exploiting something, really, because, like I said, my dad was not in a good place at all, and my efforts didn't help much. It's like, no matter what I tried to do, he saw it as demeaning, and not consistent with his wishes for how things were going to go down. Mostly what my dad always wanted was for us to respect his express wishes. He knew what he wanted, and he did not want other people taking away his decision-making power. You could not tell my dad what to do at all. It was impossible. Well, I think what she did is she looked at the reference in her head or otherwise information on these things and indicated that you shouldn't give benzos to old people because it increases the risk of fall. And so for her, that just eliminated that whole class of drugs, even though that's fine, provided falling is a greater concern than, say, suicide. And of course, you can't really be honest with that stuff about doctors. If you're honest about it with a doctor about what you're thinking regarding that, then they might remove from yourself your decision-making capacity. Yeah, he drank. Not that much at the very end, but yeah, he drank. The house is full of alcohol. We got more bottles of wine and liquor than we know what to do with. Especially since none of us really drink. Well, we had an appointment with this drink in the mix, but the psychiatrist wasn't going to be able to see him until week of the 22nd. So on Friday, he took the first rumor on. On Saturday, he suggested that I cancel the appointment with the psychiatrist. On Sunday, he said, don't cancel it. Maybe let's have that appointment. On Sunday afternoon, I confirmed with them, don't cancel it, so we're going to keep that appointment, right? He said, well, let's discuss it Monday afternoon. Let's discuss it Monday morning. Monday morning, he killed himself. Last thing he said to me before he went to bed was, well, maybe we should order pizza for the meeting we were supposed to have today at 5 o'clock, yesterday at 5 o'clock for family stress meeting with my daughter. I'm like, yeah, we'll order pizza, no problem. We'll pick up pizza. Because we don't like to order because the delivery fees are so much more than if you pick it up. Yeah, he shot himself in the head. The thing is, Rachel and I were right there. We went outside, and we'd heard a loud bang. I came out this door right here. She came out the door from the master bedroom. We looked at each other and we're like, what was that? There was a peacock that had just come landed on this railing right here. And so I said, well, I guess it was that peacock. We didn't know what it was, the loud bang. And then we heard, I saw my... Hi, Cameron.
Hey Eric, I just started watching your stream.
I actually meant to call you before I started this because I wanted to inform you before I went public. I'm sorry I didn't do that.
It's okay, man. What do you need from me? When did this happen?
Yesterday morning, 8 a.m., a little after 8 a.m.
So it happened and
He,
authorities came and stuff and
yeah,
he's been taken somewhere?
Yeah, he shot himself in the head, and the cops came, and the paramedics came. I was doing chest compressions when they arrived and sent us away from the scene because they had spotted a handgun, which I didn't ever spot, you know. I didn't even know we had a handgun in the house at all. I just thought we had the one bolt-action rifle, but...
Man.
And they did gunshot residue tests on me and Rachel's hands, and crime scened off the whole house for the morning. But it wasn't too long after they started their investigation that they realized it was just a regular suicide. It wasn't... Rachel and I didn't have anything to do with it, you know. It was confusing to us because the first time we heard anything about a gunshot was as they were hustling us down the driveway out to the street where they sat us on the curb, you know.
Oh, so you found him, but you didn't know that's what had happened.
Right, the handgun that we didn't know he had gone off somewhere into the shadows where he dropped it, and all I saw was him having his head against the concrete of the bottom part of the wall of the outside of the house, which was concrete there behind those bushes, and I thought it was a fall and a head injury. And
So this is in the back of the house, like the back corner, or where?
yeah, over by the lemon tree.
By the lemon tree on this, not by your room, but by the other side?
By the master, yeah, on the just outside the master bedroom.
Oh man.
Eh.
Eric, I am so sorry. I am so sorry, man.
It's okay. If you feel like swinging by today, it would be nice to see you. I almost called you yesterday to include you because you've been very much part of the family as well.
Yeah. Let me do that. Do you guys need food or something?
No, we're good. We're okay. Delilah's over here calling the lawyers and stuff, and you know, it's what it is. He decided it was his time, and he went out on his own terms.
Yeah.
So yeah, swing by if you feel like it. We'll pull some bowls and stuff, and
Yeah. Okay.
all right, cool.
Yeah. Should I wait a while? Like
Well,
give Delilah some time, or just
No. There's
just
there's
whatever?
one thing I'd like you to do if you'd be willing to do it.
Yeah.
If you could be the one who takes the hose and cleans off all the blood over there, so I don't have to do it, would be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll do anything you need. I mean,
Thanks, Cameron.
I love you, man.
Love you too. See you when you get here.
Okay.
Bye. I don't wanna have to be the one who goes over there and squirts all the blood with a hose. I've been thinking about doing it, but I've been putting it off. I don't really blame myself. It's natural to think about what I might have been able to do to better prevent this, but the last couple weeks when my dad needed me, we were pretty attentive. You know, I did everything I could. Cameron's a good friend. Yeah, well, Cameron was the son that my dad wished he had, ISTJ. My dad and Cameron understood each other well. My dad hired Cameron to do part of the sort of emotional therapy with my mom. He'd go there. He hired him to go there periodically and read to her and stuff like that. And last time we went out to lunch, he said, well, invite Cameron if you want. I ended up not inviting him just because I don't know why. I just didn't get around to it. And then now I kind of regret that. But yeah, he had plenty of signs that he was sad and depressed. We saw the general practitioner about it last week. We had a scheduled appointment for next week for the psychiatrist. But the general practitioner, I think, prescribed him the wrong drug. And I don't know if it would have made any difference, but he made sure his ending was on his terms. It's sad. It's obviously a life transition moment for me and Rachel and Delilah, as now we're the adults in the family, I'm the patriarch, but Delilah's more the patriarch than I am, really. And everything's going to change, Rachel and I are going to get married after my mom passes. And we may end up moving to a different area. But I don't want to move too far away from Delilah. And so it's like something I need to talk about with Delilah. Delilah is supposed to start a new job next week. She's supposed to get fingerprinted and stuff and get clearance for all that stuff this week. But in a lot of ways, she, I think, rushed into taking that job, finding taking that job because of pressure from my dad to make a decision about whether she wanted to go start working or go to graduate school, because there's still some money in her college account. And it may end up being the case that we all want to move someplace with a lower cost of living and some more positives than Southern California. I'm not attached to here. This home is full of ghosts at this point, but I'm very glad that I was able to spend the last 3 years here. Being SI 4th, I was able to do a full circle thing. I was able to re-experiencing my childhood home, my childhood neighborhood. I was able to come to terms with the changing passing of time and the fact that things had changed and my neighborhood wasn't the same. I had time to spend with my mom and my dad, both still here, helping with my mom as she was getting more and more incapable due to dementia on various factors. Rachel was able to help with that some too. Then when my mom moved to the nursing home, we were able to all go on a vacation to Hawaii. Rachel, my dad, my mom, myself, Delilah, and Delilah's boyfriend at the time. We went to Hawaii together. We went to the volcano, me and Rachel and my dad. His most memorable moment from that trip and mine were the same. This stop at a McDonald's on the way back from the volcano. And it was a great and meaningful trip. It was powerful for all of us, I think. Rachel and I had a magnificent time, and we got to experience what it's like when we're together and have our own space rather than we're together under the watchful eyes of my dad. I mean, that's the thing that I realize or take away from this whole experience is nobody can get me in trouble anymore except for myself and Rachel and Delilah. That, my dad was very persnickety about a lot of things. When I made a decision as to whether or not to close the garage door, for example, I had to consider lots of things. Mostly, what state was it in when my dad last left it? Because he's going to expect it to be in that state when he returns. Regardless of whether it makes sense to have the garage door open now or not, I had to put myself in that SI tool frame of reference all the time. If anything was moved or changed or whatever, we'd hear about it. And it was always dangerous and wrong, ultimately, to intuit general rules from things he said at all. Everything was very particularist. So things are a little different now. Well, the Hawaiian McDonald's we went to was stuck in the 1970s or early 80s. It was really old school in its decor. And it was right around sunset time. It was the whole thing was very portentous seeming. Hi, Kyra. A long time no see. Yeah, I don't think we need to visit right now. There are a few people we've asked to come by. I've asked Cameron to come by. It was nice to see Candace yesterday. Even though she's no longer part of the family, she was for a long time, and I trust her in a lot of ways, Delilah's boyfriend Elliot was here. It was nice to see him as well. But it was also nice to see him go when we got back from the Whipper store. Because I don't know exactly what to make of him. Am I certain of what? I mean, I'm certain that I want people around, but I want close people around. I was happy that Rachel and Candace exchanged numbers, but I also don't want Candace too much in the mix. There's only one person who fulfills that role, and it's Rachel. She's my wife. She's my daughter. She's my dad's daughter-in-law, not Candace. Candace is more or less Delilah's mother, because Delilah's biological mother is not very Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate you. You're fantastic. You're the best. I hold you in nothing but the highest regard. I don't have very much stuck resentment. I've got some against Rachel's mother, some against Rachel's brother, but other than that, I don't have very much stuck resentment. I've been too empowered throughout my life to be stuck in resentment for long. I've come to see the world as a place where either I'm in the wrong, they're in the wrong, or there's something unresolved between one of those two realities. Like, I'm somewhat resentful of the doctor who prescribed my dad that drug for not listening to me, but not entirely resentful because I recognize she's a product of her own cognitive function stack. She was not capable of being as intuitively robust as I was and didn't know what to do with me. The thing is, I'm a 1 in a million patient, right? My dad's a 1 in a million patient. We come in, she's expecting to deal with this elderly man as an elderly man. She ends up having to engage with me mostly, and I'm much smarter than she is. And she's not expecting that at all. She's not ready to answer any of my questions about a class of drugs and a phenomenon that she's not specialized in. And yet she's determined no matter what that nobody else is going to tell her how to do her job. I get that, except her job's a doctor. And so lives are on the line. And yet, she can't be anybody other than who she is. Just like I can't be anybody other than who I am. I might be able to sue the drug company because I believe it had a role in his suicide. But at the same time, is it really fair to sue the drug company? Because he was going to go out that way no matter what. It's not like he wasn't going to go out via suicide. He was going out via suicide, no matter what happened. At some point, he was going to determine it was the right moment, and he was going to kill himself. He had made this clear to me on a couple of occasions in the past. He didn't tell me how. He didn't tell me when. He didn't tell me. I had no idea. It was a shock yesterday morning when it happened. It was an absolute fucking shock.
I've never seen.
And I'm really sorry Rachel had to see it. But I'm not sorry I saw it.
I am.
I'm glad I got to see his last moments. The thing is, when I was dealing with it in the moment, I was interpreting it as a slip and fall head injury. I wasn't interpreting it as a suicide until the cops shuffled us out and mentioned a gunshot wound. That's the first time that I realized, oh shit, he shot himself? And I was confused because, as far as I knew, the only gun in the house was a 22 bolt action rifle, which presumably I would have seen, you know? But I guess when he shot himself, it fell into the bush or something like that, or into the shadows. The coroner said it was in the shadows. It's not surprising he didn't see it. And you might say, well, I mean, why didn't you put two and two together, Eric? What about the loud bang? Well, first of all, it wasn't really that loud. Second of all, Rachel and I have been dealing with a lot of loud bangs because the neighbors have been doing construction for, it seems like, the whole time we've been here, pretty much, until last month.
Yeah, it stopped actually.
Yeah, it's stopped now. They're done. But, right, he got to go out his way. It would be wrong of me, I feel morally, to blame either the doctor or the Remeron for it, because do you not want to be on camera?
That's fine. That's fine. I'm used to it.
Yeah, we're both used to this, right? We live in front of the camera. Not Rachel as much as I do, but we live in front of the camera. And the thing is, as I explained, as I've said to both Rachel and Delilah yesterday,
Oh my god.
this isn't heartbreaking. It's not tragic. It's sad. It's shocking. It felt like it was out of the blue in some way, but it wasn't out of the blue. And it doesn't go any better than this. This is the best it goes, you know? You're at the end of your life, and your time's up. And instead of rotting away in a hospital bed with machines and feeding tubes, you go suddenly. It's the best it ever comes out, right? It's the best it can ever come out. You live a full life into your 80s. You have a long retirement where you get to travel all over and do whatever you want. You're in a sound and stable place financially. You don't have to worry about, losing your home or anything like that. My parents lived life as best as it can be lived. The best anybody can do is what my parents did. They lived a full life with multiple chapters. They worked hard. They played hard. They had exactly one child. And it is shocking. We like to have this idealization of our father being the unstoppable force against life when our comfort is met with reality. Is very shocking. Well, that's the thing is, these last few weeks, seeing my dad go downhill so quickly was very painful. Painful for me, painful for him. I didn't adjust as quickly as I should have to realities, I didn't realize just how sick COVID was going to make my dad until it did. At that point, and then my mom was at the same time as my dad was super sick with COVID, my mom was in the hospital, and they lost her, and there was a lot of shit going on, So, the thing is, we didn't express it this way, but as I've said, the last 3 years have been a vigil. We've been waiting for my parents to die. I've been waiting for my dad to let me fulfill my duty as a son better. My dad did not like to let go of control over things. So, I should have known maybe that the end was coming soon when my dad gave me my mom's driver's license and Kaiser card. Thanks, Annie H. Ghostwriter. Appreciate it. I'm glad I've been here the last 3 years too. I'm glad I was able to have that time with my parents and at least show that I was there for him rather than him being alone. He didn't let us in very much, you know? But he did some there at the very end, and I'm really, it's like a parent's death can't go any better than this either. It's not just your own death can't go any better than this, a parent's death can't go any better than this. We had time. I was able to be of some use, to be a reasonably good son. Not the best, but as best as I was capable of at the time, you know? I've heard it said before, you don't really grow up until your parents die. So, in that sense, I really grew up yesterday because my mom's still with us in body only. One thing I want to do today is go inform her, but she won't understand. But I'm going to go tell her anyway that her husband is dead. My father is dead. And the way these things work, it wouldn't surprise me if my mom's only got a month left now. You know, I was thinking she's got 3, 4, 5 months left, but there's something about being an old couple like that. They were married for 59 years. They just had their 59th wedding anniversary earlier this month. My dad's 85th birthday is coming up on the 17th. Just a couple of days from now. But, in fact, my aunt indicated that she had already sent him a birthday card. It's coming up tomorrow. Saying, well, you made it to 85. That's better than most people. Better than everybody else around, you know. Well, he didn't quite make it to 85, but almost. Right. There's a connection there or something, you know? But my mom could prove that bullshit by persisting for months and months. The long-term care insurance runs out in December. But, you know, we'll pay for her continued residence in the nursing home in full until she passes at a rate of like $11,000 a month. Right now, we're paying about $3,000 a month because the long-term care insurance pays the rest of it. You count your age from conception? Not a bad idea. What was 9 months before April 27th, 1971? Let's see. August, September, October, November, December, January, March, February, March, April. Yeah, it's August. My parents conceived me in August, I guess. And I guess Melinda and I must have conceived Delilah at the end of December or at the end of January. I'm not sure, because she was born September 30th. She's here right now. She's making calls. talking to the lawyer. She brought over some instructions my dad had left for her some time back about what to do if meow, what to do if meow. And, yeah, you can't be fully prepared for something like this. And yesterday was a difficult day, but in some senses a beautiful day too. It really drives home how important it is to have a certain number of people. You have to have a few. You don't need a shit ton, but you need more than just one, more than just yourself. Having Delilah, having Rachel as the core family here, the three of us were able to be together for most of the day yesterday. Even if we weren't spending time in the same room, it was a great comfort knowing Delilah was just inside right there on the couch. And it was a comfort to see Rachel's boyfriend, Elliot, be there, and it was a comfort even to see Candace stop by. It's going to be a comfort when Cameron comes over. The thing is, you know, your father shoots himself in the morning, and then at some point, Rachel and I go to the Whippet store, and we have this very normal conversation with the guy at the Whippet store. Rather pleasant conversation. He talks about this party he went to where he did coke and ketamine and stuff. And it just drives home that it's just part of life. The world keeps rolling forward. The world doesn't notice unless you tell them. And then you get a bunch of sorry for your loss. But it's as it should be. We're not meant to get trapped by events so completely. None of the dead want the living to stop living. And this is going to be a new life for me and Rachel, you know. Once we've dealt with all of this estate stuff and everything, we will probably end up selling this house. We'll have a lot of estate taxes to pay and stuff. I don't know exactly how my dad has it set up, and then Rachel and I will get married. The only reason that we've not gotten married heretofore, really, was that my dad didn't want that. He didn't want that complication. He had spent a lot of time already setting up things under the assumption that it was me and Delilah, and that's it. He had already been, in his mind, betrayed by Candace when she bailed. She was supposed to be my woman, and her role in this was supposed to be she was the daughter-in-law, etc. And so once he had come to terms with that and excised her from all the arrangements, he didn't want any more of that, you know? So I don't think he really understood how to value Rachel, but he did understand that she wasn't a problem. You know, that she was as helpful or useful as we were able to indicate we needed help or utility from her. Well, I don't really want to have a big wedding. But I'm imagining a smallish ceremony somewhere on the East Coast so that my Aunt Evelyn can attend, and Rachel's dad and Rachel's sister, Delilah. Yeah, we'll probably stream it, I would imagine.
Sure.
I mean, I'll defer to Rachel on these questions. It's generally accepted that the woman should have more say in how that goes. But I don't want a big expensive wedding.
No, I don't either. I didn't think we would get married, so like this is a dream that we're even talking about this.
I'm surprised that you didn't think we were getting married, because maybe I didn't make it clear enough that it boiled down to my dad's opposition to it. Yesterday sort of drove home to me also the importance of formal family relationships. So, when you're dealing with cops, paramedics, whatever, what your formal relationship is makes a huge difference.
So does what your job is. I was like, I'm a YouTuber. Like, that's the first thing that came out of my mouth. And they were like, oh, okay. You know, like, even asking me, like, what we do for fun. Like, I was just like, we do stuff. I'm like, I'm telling you, we get out of the house. Like,
You're like, we take nature walks and
yeah,
stuff, which we do occasionally. But what we really do for fun is we live stream. And lately, we haven't been doing a lot of stuff for fun. We've been broke and taking care of my dad and feeling a lot of weight, I think. There's a certain weight that's lifted because of this. It's not like we have a sense of relief exactly, but we will. Rachel said the other day, ever since she lost this one ring that we got for her after our trip to Hawaii, we went on a trip to Berkeley for a debate tournament. And we spent a lot of time on that trip looking for the perfect ring for her, and she found it, and then she lost it sometime after that. She's misremembered when she lost it, because she didn't lost it at that hotel in Oregon, because we didn't stay at the hotel in Oregon on the way back.
I did. It was that trip, because that morning when we left.
Oh, right. Because we went to Berkeley after we got back from that trip. Never mind.
Yeah, that morning I took my ring off to wash my hands, and I never did that. And I was like, no big deal. And then, sure enough, when I looked back at where I placed the ring, it wasn't there. Like, it was gone. I didn't know of any ghost tales or anything like that, so I didn't think of, like, now I say the ghost stole it.
So a few days ago she said, I've been looking for a ring to replace it ever since. I didn't think much of it, but yesterday it occurred to me, oh, well, she needs a replacement ring for that that's an actual engagement ring for her. So we'll need to look for an engagement ring for her in the next couple of months, and sometime after my mom dies, we'll get married. Rachel and I will have been together for 3 years come September 14th.
3 years.
Which isn't that far away. We're past 11 months at this point. And the thing is, it's not like I mean, should we be married? Well, the answer to me is very clearly yes. But if you're looking for some sort of objective metric, hi Delilah, what's going on?
So, question. Do you happen to know where he kept the key to his filing cabinet? Because he gave me a key, but I left it at home. And I also left another thing at home. I thought it was all in this wallet, but I should have checked before.
You're gonna have to go back and get those things. Sorry, I don't know.
No worries. And, did you also have a safety deposit box key? By any chance?
If I do, I don't know where it is.
Okay. One more. There's a cork board, like a red cork board like this, that he had a bunch of keys and important stuff on. And it used to be in your closet, like in that room, on the top shelf. But it's not there anymore. Do you have any idea?
Okay,
that's fine. I'm gonna go home. I gotta give Zuko his medicine anyways.
Okay, I'll see you when you get back.
Okay, I'll be back.
Don't be afraid to bring Zuko back with you and keep him in the house. That's fine.
The only thing is he has like a parasite right now, and I can't contact him with like any items that have any other contact with animals. And I know the cat doesn't really come in the house, but it's like
They don't. Neither Capio nor... as long as you close the master bedroom door, neither Capio nor Trouble will ever come into contact with anything Zuko has to come into contact with.
Alright, I'll bring him back if need be. But yeah, I'm gonna go look for those things. The lawyers were on lunch, so I'm gonna call back in a little bit and have the accountant's phone number and the one more phone number. I'll deal with it. So yeah, I'll call you if I need anything and anything.
Okay, thank you, Delilah.
No problem. Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you too. Delilah's a badass who's handling everything. She was more torn up by the news, I think, than I was right off the bat. She couldn't drive herself over here yesterday. She had Candace drive her over because she was so wrought. But it didn't take long for her to adjust. And I feel so grateful to God for my daughter. And what she told me yesterday was she made me promise never to do to myself what my dad did. You know, that's not my style. I'm ridiculously optimistic. You know, but the truth is, in my very old age, if there's nothing left between me and filled with suffering, I really can't make that promise. You know, if I'm 90 years old and have lost my capacity to enjoy myself, it's a mercy to your loved ones to some extent to handle it in such a way.
It is.
Because, like, look what's happened with my mom. She's immobile, non-ambulatory, non-communicative, in hospice, doesn't eat, has only use of like one arm, basically. But she's not unhappy.
Oh, I think she was aware of your dad, and I think that things went downhill when she got when he got.
Yeah, come in.
Howdy.
Hi, Cameron.
Hello.
Hey,
I brought you this thing.
thank you.
Thanks.
The new
I got it.
configuration. Hi.
Hey.
Can you hug? Oh,
Sorry.
it's all good. Long thing to the faces.
Oh my god. Are you alright?
Well, you guys really got. I didn't realize it was like this. It's like I've been seeing
Yeah,
the green,
yeah.
and this actually is like
It's a lot better space,
pretty,
huh?
pretty YouTubey.
Well, there's a lot
It
more
is
room to
very
move around.
easy.
Yeah. Man, so much to talk about, or not at all.
Yeah.
I know.
Before we
What
settle
are
in,
you-
let me just show you that area. I'm
Sure.
talking about pointed out.
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't know. It's not like it's. I just found that I found it harder than I expected to get myself to go over there and wash up the blood. The cops suggested a company that cleans up your dead loved one's mess, but I told them, I'm like, well, I'll just wash it with the hose, but then when I went to go do it, I bulked at it a little bit.
I got you covered.
Thanks, Cameron.
Man, I don't know what to say.
There's nothing much to say. I mean, it's why we've been here for the last several years, right? We've been here to shepherd my parents through to their death. On the side of the house here by the lemon tree.
Are we on the thing now?
Yeah, we're streaming.
Gotcha.
And
But your mom is still with us
yeah, she's still in the nursing home.
at the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to go back and see it. I haven't been since she was at the hospital.
Well, we're gonna stop by at some point today just to inform her. Not that she's really gonna understand, but she deserves to be informed.
Yeah.
And to inform the nursing home. And then Delilah's doing a great job of handling most of the practicalities here.
Is she like an executor of a will, or she's just Delilah right now? Do you guys know if there's a will and an executor?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but my dad basically put Delilah in charge of it because he has more respect for her than he ever had for me.
Hey, people need roles, I think. As long as someone's in that role.
That's fine, yeah. The thing is, I'm glad he did it that way. I also have more faith in Delilah to handle this shit than I have faith in myself to handle it well. The only thing that's sort of an open question for me is, did he leave a note that the cops took with them as evidence? They didn't mention that, but if there had been a note, I'm sure they would have taken it as evidence because they're trying to establish that it definitely was a suicide and not a murder.
Yeah, which should be pretty easily established with facts.
Yeah, by the time they left, nobody was thinking it was anything but a suicide anymore.
Yeah.
So, well, there's always a police report, so there should be listed. I would assume they took the firearm and stuff.
Yeah, they took
assume
the
that'd be
gun.
listed in, well, I don't know. I guess a human being with their clothes and what's in the pockets, maybe they don't go through pockets. Who knows? That might
No, they went through his pockets. They took all that stuff too.
Okay, so that
But he
was
didn't
something.
have much on him. He just had his watch, some change, and a little pocket knife, a little Swiss Army knife, and that was it. He didn't have his fanny pack on, fortunately, which had his wallet and stuff in it.
Yeah.
So the coroner was very nice, the guy from the coroner's office. And the coroner also took the Remeron with him in a medical evidence bag, the pills that my dad was on.
Okay, that's something that I started to watch your video and I'm like, holy crap. I think I heard a thing that he got 5 pills of something like an Ativan.
That was like a week or two ago.
Okay, and so then what's Remeron? Is that a...
Remeron's a different class of drug entirely. The doctor we went to last week didn't go for his suggestion that he get Ativan again, as it's not appropriate for people his age, quote unquote. And then I suggested Klonopin, and she rejected that out of hand and insisted that she doesn't practice medicine that way because people his age are more susceptible to falls, and benzos link to lower stability walking around. But as I said at the time, what this doctor needed to ask was what mattered most to us. What did we think was genuinely the risk or the problem here? Of course, you can't mention suicide to a doctor, or else you run the risk of them removing from you your decision-making capacity. So it's not like my dad mentioned that explicitly, but he conveyed to her that he was extremely anxious and extremely depressed, and she did not listen to me at all when I told her to give him Klonopin. She prescribed this Remeron. Sunday night was his 3rd night taking it.
And Remeron is an antidepressant, or?
It's an antidepressant, but it's not an SSRI, nor is it a benzo. I think it's an MAIO.
Okay. I'm just looking it up for a second.
My dad didn't like it. It did help him sleep, but he didn't wake up feeling better at all.
Yeah.
So...
Serotonergic. It's a noradrenergic. I don't know this one. Noradrenergic and a specific serotonergic antidepressant.
Right. So when I heard that it worked on serotonin, I was just like, okay, well, I guess we'll see what happened. When I asked Rachel, who's been on it before, if she thought it was good, she said it worked for her. She liked it. It was mellow. So I thought, well, maybe it wasn't such a bad decision.
Okay. But he took that a few days and just didn't enjoy it.
Right. And we had an appointment with Rachel's psychiatrist for next week, but on Saturday he said, go ahead and cancel that appointment, I guess, since I'm taking these pills now. Then on Sunday I said, I haven't canceled it yet. Are you sure you want me to cancel it? And he said, no, well, let's talk about it tomorrow, Monday morning. Well, that conversation never happened because at about approximately 8 a.m., I was sitting here. Rachel was asleep in the master bedroom. We heard a loud bang. We didn't know what it was. So, I don't know.
Rachel, are you okay?
Okay. You know, I'm still in shock. I'm sure, you know, I don't want to speak for you, but it's shocking, the event. I mean, I'm doing the best I can.
I'm not heartbroken, Melting Zero, because it's not a heartbreaking reality. My dad was almost 85 years old, and he had lost almost all of his hearing. He was losing most of his vision, and he was hobbled by these 2 broken ribs and not able to do the things that mattered to him on a day-to-day basis anymore. And it wasn't looking good going forward. Like, everything he was thinking about was just giving him intense anxiety and depressing him.
Sure. Well, I mean, he told me a year ago, or I don't even know when it was. Could be 2 years ago. I'm not even sure. But he was like, "Yeah, in a year I want to go into assisted living," which is sort of it's not something most people want to look forward to or to imagine planning. Just like all of a sudden downgrading your whole life, just somehow being able to do all this at once and it be peaceful. You just hoping for peace.
He
Doesn't sound too peaceful.
bounced between a few different plans over the course of the last year.
It's true.
Even briefly suggesting we were going to all move to Washington State with my mom in a different nursing home and do this whole big thing. Then he thought better of it, and I think he realized it was too late for that. It was like, if he had done that a year before, 2 years before, maybe, but anyway, I'm glad that he died here at his house that he lived in for 48 years. I recall after the first urgent care, when he refused to go to the hospital, despite the fact the doctor was suggesting it, he said, "I just want a quiet evening at home."
Yeah.
So what now moving forward? Well, we're going to deal with the estate. We'll probably sell this house just as for no other reason than to pay estate taxes. We may or may not liquidate the portfolio. Bottom line is, Delilah and I will split the estate, and then the three of us, Delilah, me, and Rachel, will all have a decision to make. If Delilah is determined to stay here locally, which she might be because she's got family here beyond just me and Rachel. She's got Candace and Candace's family. She's got her biological mother here and her biological grandparents. She's got my nieces, Jessica and Izzy. Izzy right now is going through some shit, some hardcore shit. She's been 5150. She's being diagnosed with schizophrenia, and Delilah's the only person she trusts. Delilah's gone through a bunch of shit, Delilah's gone through a lot of shit with a lot of stuff, and she's pretty tough because of it. But anyway, she may be determined to stay here in Southern California. She's currently lined up to start a job next week, but I think she may have rushed into taking that job because my dad was pressuring her to decide whether she was going to go to graduate school or get a job. Thank you, Abe. Thanks, Stephen Lewis. Thank you, Andre. Thanks, Noble Noob TM. Appreciate it.
Abe has good new news in his life. I just saw.
Who?
Abe? Is that Abe? Abe?
Yeah. What's he got going on?
Like, gonna get married to that.
Oh, you're getting married to Susie Abraham? Congratulations.
Congrats, Abe. Is that a TWFP marriage?
Yeah.
You guys should have a special award. You should get best TWFP marriage.
Well, Rachel and I are going to get married too. Yeah.
You guys could be best. That could be second best.
There you
Second
go.
best is a decent award, right?
Yeah,
Second
yeah.
best.
Second best is good.
Thanks, Susie. Congratulations on your pending marriage.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that you guys
Congrats.
you guys made it, You guys have been together now for a long time, and that's a tough long distance relationship you have, and I think it's absolutely beautiful that you and Abraham are getting married, and maybe Rachel and I'll, if you're going to live in Norway, I guess, I don't know, are you going to live in Norway, or are you going to live in America? It may take us a while to visit you if you're in Norway, but if you live in America, we'll...
By now there could just be split country marriages from the beginning to the end. You're just like, well, we're married, I live in America, you live in Norway.
Well, they're going to Norway on
Sending you
Sunday.
a kiss in a box. That'd be romantic. Like kiss. It'd be a movie called Kiss in a Box.
Oh my gosh.
You know that sounds like a movie.
Yes, it does. It
I'm
really
sorry.
does.
I'm sorry to make light of it, but
No,
it sounds like a movie.
it's totally fine. We need stuff like this right now. Honestly, that sounds like such a good. It's a Hallmark movie, Kiss in a Box.
Boom.
What's a
Sold.
micro center?
Sold.
I want to know what the micro center is. I know what Wagyu beef is. I get the big rock thing.
Do you guys want to see some weed?
Yeah, you want to see some weed?
Yeah.
This is a cool. I bought like tons of weed a couple months back. This is glazed cherry. Which have you guys had it from the place we go?
No, the black one's better.
Cool, thanks. That's just all I have left from like buying. I tested a few and then went back and just like bought hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of weed, and now I'm out after like, what was that, January, February? I don't even know.
Oh my gosh.
It's like so long ago, I don't even remember being there. I'm like, where is Florida? I don't know where to place it. So,
Good for you though, like taking advantage of a sale and.
oh yeah, I get the cheapest. Like that was cheap but good. Like I tested 8 ones and I bought 3 or whatever.
Rachel and I got an ounce from my mushroom dealer the other month, and it lasted us like 3 full weeks or more.
Dude, you guys, that's weird.
Give us.
It was super dense.
Maybe he gave you 2 ounces. He was too high.
No, it was an ounce, but it was super dense little nugs. Like you put one little nug in, it would like pull for 3 bowls, you know?
I found that when I used to not grind stuff properly, I would get bitchin' weed like that, and I would break it with my fingers. It was still like, if you grind it, it lasts longer. That's my obsession.
Huh. Micro Center has all the computer parts. It's like the IKEA making computers, except stuff is the best. So are you guys in town right now? Are you guys in Southern California, Abe and Susie? If you are and you feel like it, I definitely invite you to come over here
Yeah, absolutely.
and we could make a stream or something. You know, there's a lot more freedom that we have now than we did. And you know, it's like, well, now we got the house available to us and nobody to explain things to.
It's still like. I didn't do well. I didn't do well. I didn't do my best in his last days.
What do you think you should have done? My dad was difficult. So on Saturday, seeing that my dad was not happy, was depressed, and was whatever, I determined that, well, we're going to be inside the house with him as much as possible. So I suggested, well, why don't Rachel and I make you dinner? We'll make something that takes a long time. It'll make the house smell good. We'll be in and out of the kitchen. It'll feel more like a regular home, like it used to feel, where people coming in and out and blah, 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 rather than just my dad isolating in his part of the house and not really engaging with us very much. But you know, my dad, he didn't want that. He made it such that we made the cooking part 30 minutes instead of 3 hours, so that we wouldn't be coming in and out of the house. And we ate with them and sat with them, and
you know, I think he made it even to the point where he didn't want us to know that he was in pain. Like the coroner, that's who said, he was like, oh, that's what, when we mentioned that he broke his ribs, he was like, oh, that's what the big bruise was. like he was surprised to see it.
He had a big bruise where he'd
Yeah,
fallen.
Yeah.
So it turned out he had a big bruise and where he had broken his ribs.
So I mean, I get the cops' initial suspicion maybe were elder abusers or something, or you know, executed him
I
gangland
was
style on the
surprised.
side of the house.
I was surprised. Actually, one of the cops was the ones who handled me when I was not mentally well, and I totally like give him credit for like not even blinking an eye. Like he did not like take me aside and like was like, did you go into a mental like rage again or whatever? Like
Did he remember you?
I don't think so, but I remember him. It was him.
I think Rachel sensed the looming doom as well. I think she intuited something was wrong the night before, maybe.
Yeah, I did.
But it wouldn't have. There's nothing we could do about it. It's like
Someone's your actual God-given authority, or I don't know if it's authority is the word, but your elder. It's hard to all of a sudden make their plans,
right, especially when my dad had made it clear over the course of many decades that what he mostly wanted from me was for me to do what he said and respect his wishes, not for me to engage ideationally at all, not for me to come up with ideas, not for me to come up with solutions, not for me to implement my own ideas. He wanted me to respect his wishes, love, honor, and obey in reverse order. Obey, honor, and then love. I think I did a pretty good job of that the last few years. Good enough.
you did.
Good enough that I don't feel
You absolutely did.
I don't feel consumed by regret and guilt. Even though there's lots of specific moments when I think, gosh, I wish I had dealt with that differently or dealt with that better. There's this prayer that was recommended to me when my mom went into hospice, which says, pray to God that I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. That's the best you can do, is to affirm that you love God, the universe, as a fundamental, because it's the source of your very life. Acknowledge that you're sorry because you've been, like everybody is, a failure on multiple counts. Ask for forgiveness, and then thank the Almighty for the many blessings you've received and or for the forgiveness. The thing is, I've always prayed like that, but just the last 3 bits. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. But we need to remember that fundamentally, we are all products of the love of the universe. There's no particular reason why any of us should get to exist and have free will and execute it for decades and decades at a time, when there's an incredible ability to impact the world in myriad different ways, and yet we are each afforded that. And some of us have life set on super easy mode, like me. This didn't happen until I was ready for it. So I know that compared to most people, I'm super lucky. I didn't have my dad ripped away from me all of a sudden after I had been ignoring him for a month or something. I got to be attentive these last couple of weeks, more so than he let me be attentive prior. I got to tell him, the last words I said to him were, I love you. Good night, Dad, I love you. Or it might have been, I love you, Dad, good night. I don't remember exactly, but either way. And then, best of all, the day after, I discovered nudehd.xyz.
Really?
Yeah, and from that point forward, all of my best adult dating was taken care of.
Well, hopefully there are a lot of comments from them so that everyone sees it. That would be good. Well, I've got 2 different grinds of random weed and tubes. One ground up random tube weed.
Yeah, tube weed is
Here's
good.
random.
Sure.
Thank you.
And
Design tube
smoking
weed.
this glazed cherry, smoking pretty good.
Yours is tasty. Maybe it's got like a little touch of the apple genetics in it. Maybe a little.
It could.
The weed's
Which
good.
one?
I got the
Did
black
you?
one.
The black
Yeah.
one?
Thank you, Vision
What did you
Arcana.
get? What did you get?
Well, this one smells sexy.
Yeah,
Whatever
that
it is.
one was 50% off.
I can't read anything anymore. Like this, I get 0 out of it. This, I can squint and read Kaliba. I can squint. I can't even tell you until I squint. I don't feel like squinting. I can't read this label at all. And I just got glasses the other day. They're like, oh, your frames are too small. You need to get different frames. Like, probably would have helped to know before I bought new glasses.
Maybe you just need reading glasses. Do you really need glasses all the time?
I do need reading glasses. I own reading glasses. I own progressive reading glasses, which are terrible. And, you know, we're old now. Not you, Eric. Me and Eric are old now. Rachel's young and never will be old, but me and Eric are old, and we need these freaking reading glasses like a mofo to read. I don't know about him, but I know that.
Rachel has zero reason to feel guilty for telling me what her take on Remeron was because he was already prescribed it and was going to take it regardless. So it's like it made me momentarily feel better about the decision, but it didn't have any impact on what was going to happen. The doctor prescribed it. My dad liked that doctor because that doctor was a TE dom like he is, and his approach was, well, we'll just try this and see how it goes, you know.
And then he was.
Revisit the question next week. We have a phone appointment to follow up on that drug this week on Thursday. But he's not going to make it.
Like, I guess after printing more stuff out about Remeron, looking it up, and using the printer and printing more stuff out, he was like, he read the literature and he was like, why did the doctor, basically, like why did the doctor, like, prescribe this to me? Like, I have all of these conditions, like, why did,
The side effects or the risks or whatever.
yeah.
Well, and in fact, when I talked to him about it or looked at it, I was like, yeah, I don't like the looks of this either. And he said, I'm not looking for any advice here. This was Sunday. So
he had been kind of pushed out of his normal bounds of being able to do David Strauss stuff, being able to be polite enough to be like, oh, you know, it's not that that's impolite for him to tell you, hold your role, but like, you know, that he was pushed to that point was like, just not having time for you to try to solve the problem.
well, I mean, I was at a loss for what to say when he was talking to me about the drug, and so I think he sort of preempted me saying I'm at a loss for what to say here with I'm not looking for any advice. He could read me that I was trying to find something to say about it, besides just, well, that's why we should have gotten Klonopin, which I didn't feel like saying would be helpful at that point.
Also, you know, like Klonopin, which I had it prescribed years back, you know, doing not the best or whatever. And I mean, I remember that being as pretty hella strong compared to other stuff. So if he hadn't been through a bunch of other things and been through, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, all I know about the Klonopin is that I took half a Klonopin last night, and I had the best night's sleep I've had in a long ass time. And I slept the sleep of the untroubled, the sleep of the innocent.
Yeah.
And I woke up this morning feeling. I ended up getting 9 hours, a block of 6, which is fucking unheard of, and then a block of 3.
You ever try it when you're awake or just sleepy time?
You know, I've done it when awake before. It's nice too. If you're like adding up and you're feeling like you got the crackles or something, half a clonny makes you feel a lot better. But
I haven't done psych meds for like about 7 years now, but I still have this fat sack of like all these medications. I probably have Klonopin, but that would, God, what year is that from? That would have been,
drugs don't go bad.
yeah,
Prescription
Klonopin
drugs
from
don't go bad.
2008 or something.
I'm sure it works just fine. It's good to hold on to those things in case you ever feel like you're having a really bad day.
If there's ever anarchy, that sack, you trade that for like a gun.
Oh
I'm
my
sorry,
gosh!
that's
You,
shitty-
yeah, but
shitty
that's
words,
honestly
shitty
that's.
words.
It's fine.
I
Trade it
could
for
see that in a
something.
movie, so I can see that being done.
I mean, that's almost the only. I have some like silver dollars that are worth. I mean, it's called 50% silver. It's not like real silver dollars. Like, I'd trade those two.
Right.
Yeah, like right as
Like,
you got
oh,
them.
you've got a stake here. I'll give you this silver dollar. Give me that stake now that the government's ended and it's full anarchy in the streets.
Well, the thing is, mishap, in this circumstance, there's no getting through, right? The end is already determined. When you're talking about end of life mental health stuff, depression, anxiety, the recommendations are, I've still got a packed full here.
Okay.
The recommendations are all basically the same, which is, make sure their life has meaning, blah, blah, blah. It's instructions to the young about how to help the old fake being happy.
I
Whoa.
feel like I did a real fucking shitty job.
Of what?
I did. I feel there was one point where I went to the bathroom and I was like, I am here and I'm going to pee a little bit longer and I'm going to use my phone. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring my phone with me back into the living room. But
My dad was not very open to you, nor was he expecting anything from you. My dad would have preferred had I not brought a woman here to live with me. And that's one of those things in life where the best choice would have been for me to respect that and live here by myself with my dad until after he and my mom passed. Maybe that's objectively the best choice. But I don't regret for a second my decision to burden my last few years with this decision to be with Rachel. Because while I'm here being a good son, trying to help my father, because remember when I first came back, it was my father actively needed help with my mother. He could no longer physically handle the load. So it was necessary for me to come back. And also well-timed, right? Even though these things had nothing to do with each other, I broke up with Kimberly where I was living at her house and had to leave that house. At the same time, my dad needed my physical assistance with my mom. I didn't do a good job in that, but I did enough, but I should have done a better job. But, my dad was always so persnickety about giving me control over anything. He really he wanted me to be handling shit, but he didn't want me to have control over it. And that was difficult. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that my dad didn't know what I did on YouTube, which baffled me. Well, he may have had some notion of it, but he never asked me any questions about it. He never once asked me any questions about what I was doing, or expressed any interest in hearing anything about it, or in talking to me about it, even when I suggested maybe we talk about it or something. He was expressly, directly not interested in talking about it. He just didn't believe that anything that I was doing had any ultimate value. He just thought it was some wild pipe dream, you know. But like everybody in the family, he was very happy that I was no longer drinking. And that was always kind of a stark line for him and Delilah. And I don't know, my mom was probably already going into her dementia at that point. Because drinking made me unreliable in a way that nothing else really did. So I think that he probably thought, well, at least he isn't drinking. I remember one time Delilah left some of her beers in my fridge, and he asked me about that. And he had a very like panicky look on his face. And I said, that's Delilah's beers, Dad. Don't worry about it. I'm not drinking beer. I remember I used to think when I first quit drinking that I'd start drinking again when my parents died. But that I gave up on that notion a long time ago. What happens is, as you age out, is you become less important. You become less necessary. My dad at 85, 84 with failing health. My mom, 84, coming up on 85, very failing health. You still love them, and yet necessarily, wisely, you have your investments in things with more durability than that, your emotional investments. I'm emotionally invested in Rachel and Delilah, both of whom are younger than I am, and are critical to my well-being. I'm too old for my dad to be critical to my emotional well-being. And so, if in fact I were broken beyond recognition by my father's death, it means I would have had to have been fooling myself for a number of years about reality, right? It's not like, while it was sudden, it wasn't that sudden. After all, we've been living here for 3 years, and we never had an explicit time frame, but it was never really expected, I guess, that we'd be here 20 years. We're also kind of stuck in a limbo until the eventuality occurs. And what that ends up meaning is that as you get very old, no matter how much the people around you love you, you become primarily a burden and a cost. The people who have their real emotional investment in you are also timing out. They're aging out as well, you know? And so the other people around you whom you love, who are not aging out, they're younger than you. And they need to have their own emotional investments in their own relationships. They've left the nest a long time ago. And so, if you're intuitive at all, or maybe even just smart like my dad, because my dad was not very intuitive, but he was very smart. And he was very right about politics and stuff too. He was incredibly correct. Impressively, shockingly, incredibly correct. Despite the lack of intuition. A few weeks ago, you mentioned in a stream that your dad didn't know what you do on YouTube. Afterwards, I had a dream where I wandered around aimlessly and met your dad and shook his hand and said, Dr. Strauss, you can be proud of your son's work. He's having an influence on my life. Thanks, Shuffler.
Wow.
It's very nice of you to say. He was a badass, you know? He was a good man and a badass. He,
He liked to do stuff himself, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
He liked to make all the decisions. And as a consequence, you can only be so inclusive when you insist on making all the decisions. You know?
It's hard. I'm like that. I want to make all the decisions, be in control of every little thing. At least not your shit, but mine.
Right. Well, two FE types in a relationship like me and Rachel, we'd both like to defer to the other person on lots of preference things, like where do you want to eat, what do you want to do, do you have a movie you want to see, what do you want to see. I mean, when it comes to TV, I default to my own preference, and did from the outset. Rachel gradually has adjusted to realize that when I'm watching what I want to watch, she needs to watch what she wants to watch in the other room if that's what she feels like doing. You know, it's not necessary for us to be right next to each other all the time, even though we default to that. And we're best when we're fully comfortable. A good healthy relationship is one where each party takes the other one for granted in its maximal optimal incarnation. Both parties take each other for granted. They so know who each other is and how things are in the relationship, and so trust in its solidity that they're never worried about how it what individual things might say about the relationship, because all the important statuses are decided, and both parties are in agreement about those statuses. So, for an NI type who's not reliant on what's already happened so much as a means of knowing about things, there's a tendency to know about the current relationship as something expressing in the moment and in the future. Less of a consideration of, I can trust this because it's not failed me for a long time. Regardless, this has been really, I think, good for me and Rachel as a couple too. We've had the hardest, just about the toughest situation to start as a couple in that you can imagine. We started off here living together after I couldn't get Rachel's parents to agree to not make her live outside like a dog at the very beginning of this relationship, because they were doing some bullshit narcissist shit to her to demean her as a cost of her living at their house in ways that were just appalling. So anyway, when she came here and I sort of fully understood what was going on and stuff, I just couldn't send her back there without being able to resolve this point. I wanted some reassurance that she's going to be okay if I sent her back there, you know? So we started living together from that point forward, and that's a rough way to begin. Neither of us made the decision for her to live here, really. We were kind of pushed into it by realities. we stayed in just this little room out here. We didn't have the inside part. And we had the initial instability of a new relationship maximally rendered because we weren't like meeting from separate places and going back to separate places and doing the stuff that two single people will generally do as they get to know each other. And we just had this little room, and we had to sleep as we could in this space, and it just isn't enough space for two people, really. I mean, I guess you can make it work, but anyway, she was also not properly medicated. She had drugs from the East Coast, but she hadn't really arranged to continue getting a prescription filled.
No.
And eventually she went crazy. And we had to, send her back to New York. And then she came back here in the spring after her brother kicked her out for nothing. And then wouldn't talk to me about it at all. Refused to talk to me about it. So then Rachel kind of had to come back here because there was no place else for her to go, really, and we were still dating. We're still going out. I was planning on having her come back at some point. But anyway, she came back, and then we got her properly medicated. And from that point forward is, from my opinion, the real start of our relationship is once she was on the right combination of drugs and was no longer had her bipolar was dormant. It was like light switch. Since then, Rachel and I have really been together as each other, rather than as this somebody else. But some shit's happened. I mean, she had a toxic drug interaction at Christmas that disabled her, and she's still somewhat disabled by it. But she indicated to me the other day that it has gotten better over the months. But it's been a long, slow, scary process. It was yet another foray into the medical profession that established for me nothing more than these people are terrible and incompetent and stupid. It's hard to conceive of it being interpreted as anything but that, given just this clusterfuck of disasters that I've encountered every time I go there.
The thing is, there are like a couple things that it's appropriate to go for, which is like bipolar, schizophrenia. There's a couple things that you can go to a psychiatrist and you can get help, but for the rest of us, to go for any ailments,
well,
not good to go to any doctors.
Here's the thing,
It's better to
Cameron.
stay at home.
Yeah, and it's expensive too.
Here's the thing. Doctors are generally, you're not going to necessarily have a problem with them if you know exactly what your problem is, how you want to see it solved, and you pick for and pay out of pocket your doctor. The problem is insurance doctors. Doctors who are paid by insurance companies don't really feel any obligation to the client to serve their interests or needs or what they want at all, because they're not taking money from them. It's important to include market realities in everything that you're doing commerce about, which includes healthcare. It is not beneficial for us to remove market pressures from healthcare. It is expressly and explicitly harmful. It results in Dr. Clifton prescribing my dad Remeron, even though she's a general practitioner who doesn't know anything about this thing, and I know way more, having dealt with both Rachel and doctors now for a long time. And that if you were to look at her justification, which was, well, I don't prescribe this because makes old people fall down. And in other words, if people are at risk for a fall, as the elderly often are, then do you want something?
I think yeah.
Do you want this?
If I could have the bong.
Oh, the bong, right? We only have one bong. We need to get a new bong. I forgot.
Sorry.
Here, take this too. Put that over there, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Cameron.
Sure.
Thanks, CJ O'Connell. So, how does one measure meta quantity aside from assigned value? Is that not a struggle? I don't know what that means. What I do know is that I have a fairly heavy heart today, and also a fair amount of anxiety, because
Excuse me.
I'm not sure exactly what kind of problems we're going to run into. I'm not sure how long this process is going to take. I know I'm going to have to talk to a lot of different people on the phone about a lot of different things. I know I need to figure out how to get my real ID because I'm going to need to fly pretty soon. So there's a variety of there's a lot of SE to do, a lot of tasks and stuff.
Your dad was a taskmaster, so all those things that he did, like whatever things with cleaning the kitchen and stocking this, whatever it is, the newspaper is probably his.
Yeah, it is.
Little things that they end up adding up. He probably swept the yard, mowed the yard.
Well, he didn't mow anymore, but I mean, it's like as he was in his decline there, Rachel and I had to buy paper plates and toilet paper, which we never had to do because he always kept those stocked, you know? Yeah, I do have. Well, I have the right amount of great people around me, Self-Help Lounge. The thing is, you want to have some quantity, not just quality. It was just you and one other person dealing with it. You're too isolated. Having Cameron here is great, you know. Yesterday, though, we needed it to be just me and Delilah and Rachel, because we were just in immediate shock recovery mode.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to be here together. But the thing is, what did we do? Rachel and I watched... thanks, Winston's mom. Rachel and I watched Only Murders in the Building yesterday. And... you know, I was immediately subjected to lots of SI triggery stuff about what had happened that morning. Because there's scenes with people lying in a pool of blood. There's people saying expressions like blow their brains out, stuff like that. So, and first, you know, for some of it, it made me wince a little bit, you know? But it didn't change the fact, it didn't ruin the experience for me at all. I think we both enjoyed watching that show a great deal. Selena Gomez, Steve Martin, and Martin Short, and Nathan Lane, and a really good cast of people in this show. But most of all, what was so great about watching that show yesterday is it's about generations. It's about, it's a show made by Steve Martin, who's in his 70s, I think. And it's a show about two people becoming relevant again in their 70s. The thing is, at some point, it's no longer the beginning of a new adventure of relevance that extends indefinitely. At some point, it becomes a last hurrah, right? So that's the whole tragedy of the whole thing. Is we see Steve Martin and Martin Short making amazing, great, lovable, delicious art. Really good to consume. Really fun and also heart-touching stuff about it. It works great. And you think, wow, Steve Martin and Martin Short have still really got it. But that's not it. It's Steve Martin and Martin Short are absolutely killing it as people in their 70s making a show about being in your 70s. Even though that's not expressly what the show is about at all, that's exactly what that whole show is. It's about being in your 70s and still being at the top of your game. And what are you going to do? The thing is, necessarily what you do is you include a lot of people who are not in your generation. And what you do is you talk about those generational differences and the ways in which the teenagers are so incredibly different than the 70s guys in their 70s who can't even talk to them, and the ways in which they're the same. They're people with hearts and minds and interests and so forth. So, I mean, both Martin Short and Steve Martin are just fantastic. They're ambassadors for old age. And yet at some point they too will expire. And we're getting near that point. Any understanding of who they are they have to be understood as people working at the top level in their 70s, because it's necessarily going to be an expression of that. It can't ever be effective and not that. The reason it matters is because it's poignant, right? We have to have a ticking clock. Otherwise, the story is not worth anything. If you don't have a ticking clock, nothing's worth anything. A movie you like on the ways an ENTP might process emotion is Always, Sometimes, Never on Amazon Prime. You really think I should watch that? I mean, I don't really think I don't really think that I choose how to process emotion. I don't really think that I can choose how to process emotion.
I don't think we get to do that. That's like super. You can pretend to process it a different way. You can hope to do it a different way. You can talk yourself through it, use techniques, but I don't think you choose it.
For me, it's like sadness is obvious when it comes on. I get choked up and or I cry. And I feel just the raw weight of loss, right? And then that passes and I feel tired and like it just rained. And I know the feeling of guilt or regret. And I wince when I feel that a bit. And I might feel more of that at some point. But I think that's an expression of of trying to judge myself against an ideal rather than against reality or alternatives.
I think I'm remembering back to the psychology pay thousands of dollars for a quote unquote education days. And they said that everyone's going to grieve their own way, everyone's going to experience emotions their own way, and it's okay. You know, it's okay however you do it. And to expect someone to do it your way is actually like crazy to think some other person's going to go through it like you do.
Yeah.
They didn't say crazy, of course. It was cool.
Yeah,
I would say disorder, but a less healthy, I think, would be the thing to say.
I gotta disagree with you, self-help lounge. I've not found myself going to my top two functions here. I found myself rather shocked out of extroverted intuition entirely. I've been knocked into, prior to this stream anyway, I've been knocked into the subjective epistemology functions, SI and FI. Thinking about what happened, what I could have done differently or whatever. That's more of an NE thing, but not so much what I could have done differently. I've discovered just reflecting on what happened. And then the FI part is silent. It's a silent kind of soaking in something. Waiting for what that thing is to either reveal itself or to mean something that can translate into some other language. It's odd how a person has to pay thousands to learn info for a test to be considered a peer in order to coach feelings and thoughts. I don't think that there's any market really for coaching feelings and thoughts. I mean, there's cognitive behavioral therapy, but
My feelings coach. I can see it. You know what? Like 10 years from now, feelings coach, it might be the biggest thing. You should get it. feelingscoach.org.com.
Feelingscoach.org. Welcome to feelingscoach.org. I'm your feelings coach, Mr. Feelings Coach. Yes, that's my birth name. First name Fee, middle name Leans, last name Coach. I mean, the thing is, the issue of extroverted feelings, like, can one coach people on social grace? Yes. Will that be effective? To a limited extent, yes, but mostly no. And the reason mostly no is because extrovert feelings is an interface function. The actual, like, socially expected thing is always determined by the particular interplay of the interface. You can make some general rules that generally apply, but what's the most socially appropriate thing depends on how the interface is going. We're going to start with some breathing exercises. Oh no. Afterwards, you're going to talk to me about diet. That's how you know something's complete garbage. Afterwards, we're going to talk to you about your diet. I don't know what type Jeff Goldblum is. Cameron, would you mind sitting at this chair for a second while I go pee?
Oh, totally. I actually wanted to try your chair out. I've got to get, well, I'm trying to help Kara get a chair.
$179.
Is it a bitchin' chair?
Try it out.
I'm checking it out.
It's a little squeaky.
Yeah. What's up, folks at home? So I'm going to try to read this stuff, but I do need my glasses adjusted.
J North Trash. Is that how it's pronounced? Eric says I'm an ISTJ. I've got a friend who says he thinks I'm some other type, but I cannot actually speak in types, so I have no idea. What's up, Winston's mom? Maybe on the announcements you can add in lieu of flowers, sun, buds, and leaves. Hi, Cam, and host Eric's big black and red chair. What's up, Winston's mom? It's nice to hear from you. It's been a while. My glasses have been so bad for a while that I have been unable to read your comments. Luckily, Eric has this gigantic TV thing here. Let's see. Ruben sent $2, $2 for Cam. Wow, Ruben. Muchas gracias, Ruben, por $2. Sometimes people send like money from other countries, and it's funny. They send like $600, but it's Congo dollars or something. $8 million pesos. Cool. In cargo shorts? I am totally wearing cargo shorts. I've got shorts with pockets on them with zippers, so I can't lose all my stuff. Like, I've got more stuff in my pockets than Eric probably even owns. If we were on Let's Make a Deal, they'd be like, do you have earbuds? Yes, I have earbuds. Is everyone wearing cargo shorts? You gotta have a lot of pockets on there. Could have all that cool stuff. So guys, I usually host a YouTube channel where I'm telling people how to fix their electric scooter. I'm not used to talking to you about your feelings. I'm not one of these Eric Strauss feelings coaches. But if you want to know how electric scooters work, what's up? I know one of these viewers at home has that Wolf Warrior. Which dude is that? What's going on, Show Media? How many of you guys have electric vehicles and electric scooters? Show Media electric skateboard. I would not know, but I know if I rode one, I would have another broken bone. Self-help blend has 0 wanted electric scooters. Ruben R. I think I'm not wearing cargo shorts. Of course I'm wearing cargo shorts. I love cargo. Cargo is pretty awesome. The thing is, I like to be able to do stuff and not lose everything in my pockets. So I like stuff with zippered or Velcro pockets. Because I'm an ISTJ, I have like a pocket knife in my pocket attached to my keys that has a Phillips screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, a nail file, scissors, a pen, and a light on it. So that's not even all that I have in my cargo shorts. Alright, I saw a fascinating video about this bulldog and it had failed foundation and started tipping over. Okay, take your word for it. Alright, and back to your regular host Eric. They wanted to talk about cargo shorts, so.
Well, it's how you carry cargo in your shorts.
I think they heard someone hears ISTJ and they're gonna be like, oh, how's your Craftsman toolbox, or your Makita, or your cargo shorts, or your what tool did you buy yesterday at Harbor Freight?
Well, Cameron, you do have with you your portable bong ensemble thing. Can I see that black and white thing there?
This one?
No, the big black and white
This
thing.
thing?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Oh, this one's a good one to show the folks at home. Look at the way I have that.
Cameron's
tape in
got his carrier here. These tape loops in here, if you can see them, hold things like the bowl or his lighter or whatever.
It holds the tube of pre-ground weed.
It holds tubes of pre-ground weed that he's done his own blends in his weed grinder.
I thought of getting a YouTube channel called like How to Be a Stoner and just show people, here's how to be OCD and set some things up so that you can just keep this thing on your shelf and no one sees your bong all the time.
So this way also, he only uses his own bong, which is always magically clean, even though he smokes plenty of weed.
This is actually my broken bong, but it's still pretty clean.
Wow, you
I taped it back together.
nicely done.
This is my spare bong. This isn't even my bong that I use. This is just like waits for a day I'm gonna leave the house.
You make me wish I had taped my bong back into utility rather than throwing it
Totally
away.
broken there, but like this is so much aluminum tape. Like it took me half an hour. Well, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Rachel Gerard. The cam was popping off while I was gone.
They were like so excited by my cargo shorts. Somebody gave $2 even.
Thank you.
Yep.
I was in the middle of a slow a slow pee outside. Bit of a dribbler. Sometimes indicative of tension, sometimes indicative simply of being on Adderall.
Cameron. Oh my God, I'm actually famous now.
Yeah,
I mentioned on
you've
the
been on
YouTube
camera.
television.
Yeah.
I actually was on a commercial when I was in elementary school for an oil company called Getty Oil, where the kids in my class in 3rd grade got to go to Victory Park in Pasadena, where you guys maybe have gone. And there was a structure, and we all had to climb to the top of the structure on film. But one kid in the class was exceptionally like interesting looking with curly hair, and he got to go first up the structure and be like, "This guy's Getty Oil," and then all those other kids ran up after. I got $195 for being in the commercial.
Oh my gosh, especially at that age.
Oh my God! And 1980 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Like, that's a ton of money. Bought a whole game system called a Vectrex,
That's factually false. Oh yeah.
all in one. It was
You
badass.
do know what to say because you just said it. You chose to go with a factually false statement. I don't know what to say. Well, you said something. Do you know what you did say? I guess the correct sentence would be, I don't know what else to say besides this. Yeah, he died. He shot himself yesterday in the head. 8 in the morning. It was very shocking. It was somewhat less traumatic than you might expect because it took Rachel and I a while to realize what had happened. When we called 911 and I was doing chest compressions, I thought this was a slip and fall. He had hit his head against the wall. That's why there was blood coming out of his head. Because I guess he had a pistol that we didn't know about, and when he did this, it fell into the shadows, as the coroner put it. So when we were processing the event, Rachel and I think were both processing it as a slip and fall head injury. It wasn't until the cops got there, they saw the handgun, and like got us away from there as quickly as possible,
Yeah.
and shuffled us out to the curb, you know, at that point, during some point during that, I heard the cops say gunshot wound, and I realized, wait, did he shoot himself? How did he shoot himself? What? You know. So that's what happened, but the specifics of it are very dark. The big picture of it isn't really that dark, is what I'm getting at here. It makes me sad, but I don't feel like a lot of regret or like I wish it hadn't happened or anything like that, because, you know, he was determined to determine when his time was, and he was gonna go out in his own fashion. It was never the case that he was gonna go out any way other than this. He wasn't gonna let himself end up in the hospital. He saw all of his his capacities failing one after another, his hearing, his vision, etc. And you know,
He was a doer, so losing all your senses means you can't do your stuff. Like, I complain all the time, I can't see crap out of my... I mean, I could if I just did better stuff, you know, paid more money to the optometrist. It's not that I'm losing my vision, but it makes me not able to be me. So for him to just really know I'm not able to be me because these senses don't exist, and so it's frustrating to even do anything, you know, it's sad to understand that, but it makes sense.
the neighbor across the street knows I have not yet informed Richard or Ellen, or I'm not sure who else he's still keeping up with. That's the thing. It's like his pool of available friends that he can go, you know, they both vacation someplace, etc. Has dried up more or less. He's outlived them, and so he no longer has outlived them.
You have his phone and you can look at his contacts.
Yeah, I could do that.
It doesn't.
I don't really feel up. I don't really feel up for it at the moment.
Yeah,
It's something I need to do. We contacted his sister yesterday, and his friends deserve that notification, and we'll do it. But
Where's his sister?
his sister's in Virginia.
And do you guys talk, or just a family member?
We talk occasionally, you know.
Is she
We've
the same?
been talking more this year because her daughter Julie died of brain cancer at 51 this year. Not that long ago, maybe a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle Lonnie is, well, it looked like he was going to die, but he got better. I mean, he's still got a lot of medical problems, but he's not on his deathbed at the moment, and he's recovered his wits about him. Thanks, Mr. Bobby. The thing is, I got to be there for very last moments. He was still alive when I got there, and I saw the moment of his death when his arm he just relaxed and his leg relaxed, and I knew even as I was doing the chest compressions that he was dead. And he has a do not resuscitate order. So But I'm glad I was there, got to see it, actually. Delilah said, I'm so sorry you had to see that, or whatever, but I'm not so sorry I had to see it. And yet I find myself very avoidant of that area of the yard right now. I don't want to go over there and look at the blood. So like I went to pee right now, and I made sure to pee back here and take a long time to pee. And I wasn't going to go anywhere over that direction. I didn't even want to look over there. But I did look over there anyway when I climbed back up onto the patio. It's like, it's not that scary. It's a dark spot on the ground, you know. That's all it is. But I guess there's a little bit of traumatic association I have right now with that area and that spot. Anyway, a lot of stuff to do going forward. Delilah's busy right now, whereas I'm just back here chit-chatting. But I guess I'm gonna wrap up this stream now and talk to Delilah a little bit. And I mean, I don't feel like it's so terrible I had to see that. Remember, I processed it not as a suicide, but as a slip and fall head injury. I did not know he had shot himself. Even though it was a loud bang that brought us both outside,
Yeah, right.
we attributed it to something else. We didn't know what it was. And then when I saw him lying there, I assumed that the sound was the sound of him falling. But so I didn't process it as coming on a suicide, right? I processed it as this. I'm seeing how my dad died here. He slipped, he fell, he hit his head. He's gonna die, I think. I was thinking, just like Kurt Vonnegut, who died of a head injury.
Wow.
But you're not typecast out of utility, okay? It's just, well, put it this way. It's probably the case that somebody who's dealing with shit doesn't want to be told that they need to learn some things about processing their emotions right now. Even if it's the case. So, well, thanks. Oh yeah, I mean, it's the day after. Yesterday was a day of retreating in on ourselves, and I suspect that some part of today is going to involve that as well, because I feel raw, But regardless, thanks for being here, and this is an important part of my processing it, is streaming about it like this. So, thank you all for being here and for helping me to make the right kind of meaning out of this. And I'll chat with you again later today, almost for sure. Bye.